Welcome back. We are in round 8 of Laughing Dragon's MPX Modern Headliner 20K event. I'm Brad. You're Noah. How are you doing, Noah?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get into this match. We're seeing a new deck on coverage for the first time, a deck that I personally haven't even seen. Uh, in modern, uh, this Urza Affinity deck, it looks super duper cool. It's like a mono blue take on a typical Affinity deck. You've got 4 copies of Urza, 4 Memnite, 4 Ornithopter, and 4 Thought Monitor. That's like basically the core of the deck. These cheap creatures, a bunch of cheap artifacts, 4 Thoughtcast as well, and then 3 Nettle Cyst. That's the big payoff. The Affinity decks of the past, they'd be playing Cranial Plating and really relying on these Mox Opal and stuff like that. Stuff of the past. But now just critical mass of threats. I think is what this this deck Jay's going for. So
Yeah. JS on the left has a mono blue Affinity deck. I had not seen this before. Versus Jonathan Chu. We just saw him last round on 4-color Omnath. He dispatched Indomitable Creativity in three games. Played really well. I really liked how he navigated all 3 games.
yeah, I mean, Jonathan clearly showing that he knows how to play this 4-color Omnath deck. What's important for any given matchup, and his record shows it. 6-1. They both got to be happy going into this last round, so that's good.
Do you think Jonathan Chu knows what to expect from this mono blue Affinity deck?
I mean, unless him and Jay are close buds, I doubt it. I don't think this is one he's seen too much.
Yeah. Well, both players 6-1. Regardless of outcome, both both advance to day 2. So everyone who's 6-2 or better will advance. Affinity deck's keeping their 7, while Chu is mulliganing. So the Affinity decks in Days of Yore had Mox Opal. The new ones don't have that, which is why the deck's kind of been absent for a while. You mentioned Nettle Cyst as a really good impetus for playing the deck. Is there anything else that really stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty typical. The 4 Thoughtcast for Thought Monitor. That's really the way to fill back up after you've played all these Memnites and these Ornithopters. So, I mean, aside from the Moonsnare prototypes, which is just basically, another copy of this drum, everything looks to be pretty, what you would expect, if someone told you like, oh yeah, I'm playing a mono blue Urza deck. So you're playing all these cheap artifacts in Urza, like, yeah, that's my deck. So it's I'd say a lot of cards that you would maybe expect, but an archetype that you probably wouldn't. So I think it's really cool.
Sure. Got a tapped artifact land for Jay versus a Triumph for Chu. Chu was on the play, deploys a second land and passes back. No Delighted Halflings from Chu this game.
I mean, if you're Jonathan, you can't be too pleased, right? You went turn 1, land nothing, turn 2, land nothing. No Delighted Halfling, no Ren and 6. Not exactly what you're looking for. So.
And now we see Urza Saga, which is... That is such a cool card. It's a mana source. It's a threat. It tutors up something out of your deck eventually. And that's the... Is that the prototype?
I think so. It's a little hard to see exactly what it is, but I think it is prototype. Yep.
That is the Moonsnare prototype, from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Followed by Ether Spellbomb.
I mean, here is the cool part of prototype, right? Like, let's say Jay had another spell that he wanted to cast here. He could actually use the prototype, tapping the Spellbomb to cast it. Whereas Springleaf Drum wouldn't be able to do the same thing. So I think that this is where we're seeing that, kind of 8 sort of Springleaf Drum effects, but it's showing that Moonsnare prototype can do a little bit else as well.
Sure. Card's good enough for Jonathan Chu to fire off a Prismatic Ending on. And back to Jay. Jay's Saga goes up to 2.
I can only guess that Jonathan has something like a smattering of Teferis or like some Evoke cards or something in hand. Like, I think there's very few hands from this 4-color Omnath deck that you would be willing to keep against almost anything that don't have, you know, some of these potent 3-cost cards. So it's really unfortunate for him that he's missing his land drops. You know, just seeing him pick up a Fable of the Mirror Breaker here, it would be so awesome if he'd be able to resolve something like that. So
yeah, absolutely. That's a Welding Jar in play. That threatens to regenerate against some types of removal. The construct was made, and Urza Saga ticked up. It's on its way out. Jay's deciding what he wants to do with it. He makes another construct. These tokens are already beefy. They are 6/6s before anything else.
I mean, this has to be what Jay was thinking when he built this awesome deck, right? He was like, I am just going to make the biggest constructs that you have ever seen. So, like, I mean, I respect it.
He's going to wallop you without even casting spells, really. He's going to cast Welding Jars and destroy you. We're currently searching for the 0 or 1 cost artifact, thanks to Urza Saga.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Pithing Needle on some random Planeswalker, maybe a Shadow Spear, Welding Jar. Oh, Welding Jar's already in play, so he doesn't need a Welding Jar. You could get Haywire Might, I guess. Like, it could be okay as an answer to like some enchantment or something.
So, well, Leyline on a construct, that won't work, but it will eat the One Ring if Chu eventually gets to land ring. But Jay might have taken it just to up his clock.
Yeah, I mean, the game is certainly going to end before something like a One Ring this game, so. And it's looking like.
Okay.
Oh, that's 6 artifacts. Oh, that's a 1-cost Thought Monitor.
So you mentioned before that was like kind of the reason to play this deck. The older Affinity decks, they were speedy with Mox Opal. This one is just really good at refueling itself. And is that 7?
That is 7. Oh wait, 8.
Yeah, I see
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the 8th one? Does he have 2 artifact lands in play or just the 1?
Darksteel Citadel, and then the blue-red artifact land that's tapped on at the upper top.
Oh,
or the blue-black one.
That's a Tanglepool Bridge.
Thank you.
I did not even realize that that's what that was.
Well,
that's a huge construct then. That is not very good if you're a Jonathan Chu fan. He is going to need to find an answer for these guys immediately, and it's looking like all he can do is Lightning Bolt.
Jay could choose to regenerate it, and he's thinking about it. Maybe that's not right. We'll see.
I honestly don't hate it. It's like, what is Jonathan going to be able to answer a construct with that doesn't exile it? You know, you're not going to be able to use this Welding Jar to protect very many of your creatures in play. Might as well just save your 2/2.
Absolutely.
And also, you know, he does have this Spell Bomb. It could bounce the Thought Monitor possibly.
Like
to draw some more cards. So you might as well protect it, get yourself some more value if you're running out.
Sure, more cards couldn't hurt, and the off chance Chu has a miracle in his hand. This Lightning Bolt has been trying to resolve for a while now. Not sure what we're asking about, but we are. I think we're getting Oracle text on Welding Jar.
Gotcha.
In the tank. I think you choose just dead, right?
Yep, super dead.
Well, Fury. Proving me wrong again.
He's got double fury. I mean, that could finish some stuff off. It looks like it's just the one.
So Chu no longer facing lethal unless Jay deploys 2 artifacts?
Right?
No, just one. Just one.
So that's sounding like lethal to me.
Yeah. Do you think Jay has 1 artifact in his hand that he can cast?
I would wager a lot that Jay has 1 artifact in his hand. Might not even need to cast one, as I think this is just a tapped artifact land. So he said, I don't need to cast anything.
Boy, this deck really could theoretically win a match without casting a spell. That would be great.
And then looks like we got Jonathan trying to evoke a Solitude, followed up with a Metallic Rebuke from Jay, and it'll take down the first one.
Oh, Metallic Rebukes. That's a good incentive to play the mono blue version of this. Yeah, let's go take a peek at these deck lists. Here's this mono blue affinity deck. Are there actually affinity cards in it?
Thought Monitor has affinity.
Okay, yeah. Thought Monitor.
That's enough right there, right? I mean, it's really an Urza Saga's deck through and through, right? It's Urza, follow that up with a bunch of like small stuff with the Ornithopter Memnite, or just play that stuff as is, get this Nettle Cyst going, Urza Saga to make some tokens, 4 Thought Cast, 4 Thought Monitor to rebuild. I really like, just where Jay's head was at while building this deck. He made sure to include, a smattering of stuff that he can search up with the Urza Saga that could be impactful no matter the situation. He's got the Spell Bomb, he's got the Pithing Needle, he's got the Shadow Spear.
So what do you think? What do you think Jay's looking to bring in? Would he'd bring in that second Pithing Needle for sure? But what else are we looking at?
Yeah, I mean, he's got these dismembers probably okay. I mean, look, it's tough when you're playing these affinity decks. There's only so many cards you want to bring in. It looks like maybe he took out 3 cards. Like I'm not really surprised, because the way that your deck functions at its finest is with the synergies, is with all the pieces together. So you don't really want to take cards out of your deck that stop it from functioning well. So it's looking like, yeah, the Pithing Needle is probably coming in, possibly the Force of Negation to stop some of this, Planeswalker action, and then maybe some Dismembers as a clean answer to Omnath.
Sure. Looking good for Jay. Even if he loses this game, he'll be on the play for the 3rd. Is this a tempo deck? Is this what we would call a tempo deck?
The affinity deck?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say there's tempo aspects to it, certainly. I mean, in my mind, tempo is like a little bit more based on like being able to change, the way that your deck is playing based on like the context of the game, kind of like going more with the flow, like when you need to be a little bit more aggressive, like doing that, like when you need to be a little bit more controlling, doing that. Like in my mind, that's kind of what tempo embodies. And Jay's a little bit more, just straight up like, hey, look, I'm here to play my artifacts, and I'm here to make them big, which I respect,
Yeah. The reason I asked was the Urza Saga does let you tutor, but it's slow and not exactly effective all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think he brought in that second Haywire Might for the One Ring?
See it. I mean, I don't think he cares as much about the One Ring in a matchup like this. I could see it being good though. It's not like when you think about the cards Ornithopter and Memnite and stuff like that. It's like, how much worse is a Haywire Might than like paying 1 mana? Is the card worse? I'm not exactly sure. And that's totally up to Jay. And he knows the in and outs of this deck more than me, and I'm sure if he feels like, yeah, One Ring is kind of an issue as the games go later, then he'll want to bring in the second one. But I could also just see it being the case that it's really important to get this critical mass of threats down, get these low-cost creatures down early, get analysis going, follow it up with a little bit of interaction in Metallic Rebuke. So
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't bring in very many cards at all.
Does your answer change when he's on the play?
If anything, I think on the play, you'd want to sideboard the least number of cards as possible when you're playing a deck like Jay's, just because that is when you want the highest critical mass of your deck's possible best draws. When you have these really exceptional tons of artifacts followed up by a Thought Monitor, followed up by a Nettle Cyst, on the play is when that can happen. So you're just going to want to present your deck in a way where you can maximize that happening.
Sure. Sounds great. We're going to go to game number 2. Chu is on the play. He's going to hope to draw 3 lands or more this game. Leads with a Misty Rainforest versus Jay's Basic Island. What kind of affinity start does Jay have? Something. We're in the tank.
Can't decide.
So Ornithopter, Moonsnare Prototype, into a Springleaf Drum, into a pass. I used to say all the time when I was playing competitively that if Affinity played 4 cards on their first turn, I would lose.
Yeah, I mean, there is 4 cards in play. That is a little bit scary, no doubt.
Move it in a speed. Other decks only wish they could move at. Jonathan Chu with Boseiju and Renin 6. Picking up the Misty Rainforest. Thankfully, Ornithopter has 2 toughness.
Very typical for Jonathan. Basically exactly what he's looking for. Having a bunch of colors in play by turn 2, deploying this Renin 6, picking up the fetch land, being able to continue just deploying threats as the game goes on. So really going to be a matter of, is there some of these 3-cost haymakers, the Fable, the Mirror Baker, the Teferi? Do I have Omnath? Will Jay have something to kill me? Is Urga Saga's coming soon? Is there an Urza in my future? Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like this mono blue deck probably plays a lot differently without Urza Saga in the first couple of turns. Jay tapping some Ornithopter and a drum, or another drum, and Prototype and drum, cast Thought Monitor. Boy, that's cool. Turn 2 Thought Monitor is pretty cool. I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's turn. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Jay's sitting on a Force of Negation. We can see that in a hand cam, and it looks like a blue spell that he can pitch to it as well.
It's like Force of Negation, looks like Urza, looks like an Ornithopter in there.
Choose third turn, starts with Lightning Bolt on Thought Monitor. We saw this last game. No Welding Jar to save it this time.
Not the biggest deal if you're Jay. My Thought Monitor, he was pretty cool to have around, but already got those 2 cards out of him, so.
Followed by the Misty Rainforest, we know that Jonathan picked up, and a fetch. Solid Fountain. I believe he's got all 5 colors represented now. Or, sorry, 4 colors. Pardon me. Prismatic Omen's going to hit the Ornithopter, which is going to take away some utility of those Springleaf Drums. And Ren and 6 will buy the Misty Rainforest back again.
It's actually kind of a huge one to have an answer to the Ornithopter there, just because it really kind of slows down what Jay is looking to do if he doesn't have a land, and there's a Saga. So
yeah, we saw that last game really take over the game against Chu. Let's see what happens now. We're going to tap for 4, and that's Urza. Board high Artificer.
I love that Urza, can't be got by these spell pierces that you're seeing so many copies of, because the format is really defined by the One Ring right now. So the sorts of answers that people are playing don't necessarily line up as profitably against Urza as they have in the past. So I think that like playing a deck where Urza is one of your main win conditions is really smart right now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a great point. I like that a lot. Unfortunately, Chu has Solitude plus white cards, so Urza's not Lord for very long.
But he drops off a friend, and that friend is really not playing around. So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 at the moment. Do keep in mind this is the 3rd turn. There's a lot that's been going on. Chu taps for his 4th. There's that Misty Rainforest again. Delighted Halfling, a little late to the party.
See, Delighted Halfling, really strong card, makes this deck wicked strong, great early game play, but turn 4, you have access to 4 mana and you're drawing cards like Delighted Halfling, like you can't be too pleased with something like that.
Yeah, Chu's had to expend a lot of resources just to keep Jay from, doing anything of relevance. So he's a little spent. Let's see that hand. Keeping it close to the chest. We can't see it.
You're right. It looks just like a land in One Ring, yeah. Which is good. I mean, having One Ring in a spot like this is going to be really important. Having an answer for the construct, also really important.
That's Leyline Binding, taking care of the construct. Choose hand, he's got that Misty Rainforest inverted because he knows that Jay knows what it is. So, if you didn't pick up on Chu being a seasoned competitive player, there's your tip.
Yeah, you love to see that one, right? Because he's just saving mental energy. He says, "Hey, I could randomly draw land, and I don't want it to be playing the one that you know about. The one that you don't know about. So I'm going to make sure that without even thinking about it, like this land is the next one that I play. So actually, just really tight."
That's an Ornithopter from Jay. Not the best turn 5 play. But the Saga's threatening to go off next turn. Jonathan Chu, turn 5. Taps Delighted Halfling. This is an uncounterable engine. It's the One Ring.
How brutal is that? Delighted Halfling into the One Ring. I mean, not only does it give you protection for a turn and it's indestructible, now it can even be countered?
Oh. We're going to have a messy judge call here. Jay tried to force of negation the One Ring, but it is technically uncounterable. Thankfully, there's a judge right there. He'll handle that. In my opinion, huge flavor fail. The Delighted Halfling would not be delighted to help bear the One Ring. I can't get past it. I can't look past it. I'm sorry. It's I like the set. I like the cards themselves, but it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
I mean, you don't know who Delighted Halfling is being controlled by. Like, this is this is like not your typical Lord of the Rings story. There's some crazy stuff going on here. We've got elementals, we've got omnaths, we've got planeswalkers going on. Like the Light Halfling has been through a lot since we've last seen her, and I think that this just goes to show that.
She has, yeah. It's been a rough ride. She's in round 8 right now, so she's put a lot of work in.
Yeah, it's like you can't expect her to get it right every time.
Judge is reviewing the call with another judge just to make sure he gets it right. I love that. If you're just coming in, the One Ring's on the stack, but it was cast via Delighted Halfling. Jay tried to force a negation, the One Ring, and that's why we paused. We've got an illegal action here. Well, potentially illegal action.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'm thinking. Jay showed it or possibly cast it, and then was like, "Oh, it's uncounterable." Like, I don't know if that's what I want to do. And then so Jonathan kind of wanted to check, make sure.
We're gonna go to the back match. We're going to take a quick look at the backup match because that's a lengthy judge call. Ian Friedman versus Everett Hanna. Rakdos Evoke, not Scam, versus Mono Black Midrange. We saw Ian earlier.
Today is the day of Ian. He just cannot lose with his Mono Black Midrange deck. Coming into 7-0 with what looks to be a nice little homebrew. You just have got to be feeling so good.
And players have been trying to make Mono Black work every year since Odyssey, since Torment came out. And it rarely succeeds, but this one looks spicy. I like it.
If there's any set of cards that could make, a Mono Black deck work in a format, they are Shieldred the Apocalypse and the One Ring. That is it just gives such power to an archetype that typically struggled with, I've got all these great 1-for-1 answers. I've got some pretty good threats. Like, how am I really going to finish out this game? What am I really going to use to take over a game? One Ring, perfect card for that. Shieldred, another just really good card at doing that. And then paired together, they work so harmoniously. Drawing cards, gaining life, offsetting the life lost from the One Ring. Just really, really good.
It's like peanut butter and chocolate. More than the sum of parts. All right, we've got a match with a judge call and a match who's deep in the sideboarding. We'll go back to whichever one pops up first. But thank you for joining us at the Laughing Dragons Modern 20K main event. This is a modern event. Feeds to day 2. And day 2 is a top 8, and top 8 lets you... it feeds you into RCQ.
Yeah, I mean, the top 4 spots getting qualified for the regional championship is so huge. These last couple of rounds, solidifying your record and getting yourself into a good spot for day 2 is incredibly important, especially with how much is out to stake. A bunch of money for first place, a bunch of money given out to the rest of the top 64, 128, just really good prizes in this event. And on top of that, there are these 4 RCQ slots. So these players have a lot on their mind going into this tournament.
Yeah, this is a competitor's event. It's not just a cash event. Here we're going to see Game 3 of Rakdos versus Mono Black. We saw kind of a version of this before. It was a different Rakdos build. But we're looking at a Thoughtseize out of Everett. Thoughtseize is going to show us 3 lanes, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, and Orcish Bowmasters. Leyline of the Void is already on the battlefield.
That is a wicked good hand for Ian. Just having a smattering of, I got some removal, I got some hand disruption, I have a decent threat that it also doubles as removal, as well as the turn 1 Leyline just to shut off any possible shenanigans, getting scammed, what have you. So that's good.
I agree. We're going to see if Thoughtseize finish resolving. It's... Oh, man, Thoughtseize decisions, mirrors are so tough sometimes.
Everett said, "Nah, my hand. I don't want you seeing this one."
Yeah. All right. Going to go for turn 1 for Ian. There's the swamp we just witnessed, and a pass. Everett could deploy. Everett has a Diethy Voidwalker in his hand, but he knows that there's removal sitting in Friedman's hand. What do you think about this, Noah?
So here's what it comes down to. How long is this game going to go on for Everett to be able to tax Ian's mana? So if he believes that, yeah, like Ian's going to need to be using his mana eventually, and then I'll get a good spot to get my Diethy Voidwalker down, then maybe he doesn't want to play it. But I find it unlikely for that to happen, so he's probably just going to play it.
Looks like we're bouncing back to that first. We're back after a lengthy judge call. The Force of Negation was cast. It did not counter the One Ring, thanks to Delighted Halfling's text. Little misstep from Jay. But they'll get a time extension. I'm sure these guys are tired. It is round 8.
So Jay does have his Urza Saga, though, and it already pumped out one huge construct, looking like he's about to make another huge one here. It is a little unfortunate for him that Jonathan cast the One Ring on the previous turn. You know, he won't be able to get in a huge attack here at the face with the construct, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be saying goodbye to that Renin 6.
Yeah, One Ring does not protect Planeswalkers like it does your life total. The Saga fired off. Jay made a second construct before it left the battlefield, and now we're looking for a 0 or 1 mana artifact. I would guess either Haywire Might or Pithing Needle, but I've been wrong before.
I think those are spot on guesses. I would be really surprised if it wasn't one of those two. Just from the spot, there's not too much looking at his list that's incredibly effective here at 1 mana in this exact scenario. So
sure, Haywire Might it is. Jay had one of those main and one in the sideboard. He knew the One Ring was coming.
I mean, Haywire Might, like, there's just archetypes like Breach or whatever. They just play a breeding pool in their deck simply for Haywire Might. That's how powerful Haywire Might is.
Construct gonna attack Renin 6 for I don't know, a lot.
30. Yeah.
At least 30.
Every artifact.
And we're just gonna eat the ring now.
That's really heads up play by Jay, saying, I don't want you drawing any more cards. I'm just getting rid of it till you untap. Before you untap, rather.
Yeah, I think it's smart too. Jonathan Chu going to his 6th turn has a Delighted Halfling and a Leyline in play. Let's see where he can go from here. There's a couple of really big constructs that are threatening his life total. They're definitely 7/7, so this looks like a lethal attack without anything from Chu.
Well, luckily he does have this Delighted Halfling which can block, so that is the one upside. It's not like completely lethal. But getting a quick glance at Jonathan's hand, I'm pretty sure it's just full of lands. So unless he's able to find something over the course of the next couple turns, the writing is on the wall.
Thought cast from Jay. He just wants to make sure he can seal things up. Jay doesn't know that Chu has 4 lands in his hand, so Jay is going to play it carefully. Darksteel said,
yeah, he's feeling a little like, I wouldn't say he's not feeling confident, but he's like, this could possibly go bad. Maybe beating himself up. He's like, I wasted this force of negation. Like, if only I had this force of negation. But like, don't worry, Jay. Like, it happens. Everybody makes like these small missteps. What you have got going for you is some huge constructs. So,
And Delighted Halfling can block. It can make mana. It can do everything.
yeah, I don't know who made that card. Probably some schmuck over at Wizards just decided.
Like, how close is that to Deathray Shaman? It's pretty close, right?
Yeah, I mean, the legendary clause is what is really what makes it any sort of different. Other than that, it would just be as close as possible. So, but still, I mean, a 1/2, it's like they just design cards nowadays that don't die to Orcish Bowmasters or Renin 6. It's weird.
Weird indeed. Here's a Nettle Cyst. We talked about this card earlier being the impetus for playing the deck, and it looks good. It's just like a card construct. It's going to be huge. It is. Doing the quick math, I see 10 artifacts on the battlefield on Jay's side.
Yeah, that's a lot of artifacts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It is.
Yeah.
Oh, he's moving the Nilsos over to the Ornithopter, and I think that's just lethal this turn.
Oh my. Oh yes, that's a thing that you can do. You can move the equipment off of the germ. Yeah, that's going to make Ornithopter a big beefy boy, and the big beefy boys are going to come for Jonathan Chu's face.
Yeah, you don't love to see that after Jonathan. As you can see, he's just sitting there, arms crossed, nodding, like he knows his fate is. He doesn't have a single interaction in his hand, I don't think. He's just going to flip over, yeah. Bunch of lands, like.
Take a look. Jay with Mono Blue Affinity, super cool deck, 7-1. He goes on to play Sunday in an effort to make top 8.
Yeah, I mean, super happy for Jay, super exciting. Great to see the Affinity deck crush, and here we are back to our other match.
These two 7-0s, so both players advancing to Day 2 regardless of what happens. Rakdos Evoke. Oh my.
Oh, and we're right back in this turn 2 scenario. So like here's what I'm thinking. Everett, he knows a fatal push is coming, but also he knows that Ian has a ton of lands, so he's not really going to be able to find himself a turn of this game where he can tax Ian's mana enough to gain value from passing with the knowledge of the fatal push. So he just decided, look, I have to play into your fatal push because I have another Dottie Voidwalker, and I want to deploy my own threats. So really heads up play there from Everett. Really smart. It seems a little bit unintuitive to just play your 2-drop when your opponent has a 1-cost answer, but I think that Everett made the right decision.
I agree. Everett takes a fetch off of Bloodstained Mire. Looks like he's going to shock himself. Is it Fable of the Mirror Breaker time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think he has too many other options. It could be like a Blood Moon, which I would be really surprised if that was in against this mono-like mid-range deck. So, yeah, we're either going to be seeing a Fable of the Mirror Breaker here, or he just wanted to fetch beforehand.
Okay. That makes sense. Deity Voidwalker hits the battlefield.
Huh. I'm curious.
Oh. Wait, that's Turok, I think. I think that's Turok.
Oh. Huh. I don't know if I understand the fetch yet. I haven't figured it out. It's possible that Everett is planning on using a Feign Death, using an Undying Malice on this Turok, but he's got to remember that Ian has Leyline of the Void in play, and that is not going to cut it this game.
Yeah, those creatures don't even go to the graveyard. In fact, that Bloodstained Mire should be exiled. That's currently in Everett's graveyard. Oh, they both caught it. Great. Yeah, I think that was the plan. And even if it's not going to work, you called it Hollywooding earlier, and I think that's you can mentally trick your opponent into trying to play around something that's not actually going to work.
Yeah, I mean, totally. There's always, these options to play the game in a way that is like seems like obviously incorrect or seems like you're doing something a little out of the ordinary, but it can oftentimes pay off.
So now we got a Bowmaster's Orcish army facing off against a Goblin Shaman token and Fabled Mirrorbreaker on 1. Thoughtseize fired from Ian Friedman is going to look at the 2 cards in Everett's hand.
Fury Undying Malice. So yeah, that's just totally what happened to Everett, and I feel a little bad for him that he ended up firing off this Torok in plans to feign death it or Undying Malice when that can't happen. So he actually knew about the Orcish Bowmasters from Ian as well. So a little bit unfortunate here for Everett.
Yeah. Well, he kept putting his cards into his graveyard and then moving them to exile. So he's clearly not thinking of the Leyline of the Void.
Ooh, this is cute. Attack with Orcish Bowmasters. Malakir Rebirth to trade into it. Boom, comes back into play. Ping to finish off your 2/2.
Scam got scammed. Table ticks up to 2.
I mean, you're Everett here, right? And you're facing down an Orcish Bowmasters with a Fable and Mirrorbreaker in play, and it's like, yeah, maybe your hand sucks. Like, yeah, maybe you want to draw some new cards, but like, are you just gonna die? Like, can you even loot here too much? I am not sure. I think
you gotta have faith. No, you gotta have Heart of the Cards. You need a Fatal Push in that top 2.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we got any of those in our deck. So I'm thinking we got 2 Terminates. I've seen worse. We got some Lightning Bolts. That's not even gonna. Oh yeah, that's not even gonna answer the Orcs anymore. I mean,
Voidwalker enters the battlefield. Everett with just 1 card remaining. And Friedman.
It looks like he just decided to discard 1 card with the Fable.
That is Murderous Cut. Khans of Tarkir Limited All-Star. That's a good one. Love it.
Hey, I mean, Murderous, also standard All-Star in this the Jeskai Black deck, just a nice 1 mana removal spell to go along with your fetch lands. But yeah, it's not one that you typically see here in Modern. But Ian says, I don't really have much else to be doing with my cards in my graveyard. I might as well get some value out of it somehow. A lot of these decks, they got Murktide, they got Breach. They have some way to really abuse the fact that so many cards are filling up with their graveyard. And Ian said, I want to do the same thing. I want a removal spell that is going to be super cheap, is going to let me utilize cards. So I like it.
There's that Orcish Bowmaster's mirror dilemma where your Bowmaster's dies to theirs. Bowmaster comes in, picks off the potentially blocking Bowmaster, and this Orcish army for Everett is just going to soak up 3 damage. Not a bad play given that he's at 8. Everett's going to size up what he can do with Reflection of Kiki-Jiki here. Does he want another Bowmasters? He does.
That's not bad.
I've seen worse. So we got a token copy of Bowmasters that's going to eventually disappear, but it makes the Orc army before it goes.
And also gets to get in there for 1.
Bam. Friedman down to 14. Everett at 8. We've got a pretty interesting game here. I thought for sure after our brief glance at the previous game that and the Leyline of the Void, that was going to cement it for Friedman, but Hannah's been able to turn this around.
Yeah, interesting turn there from Everett. Has 2 copies of Fury, opts to just pass the turn. I think he's kind of decided Yeah, Fury is probably one of my more potent cards in this matchup. I don't really want to have to pitch another Fury to get one down. And I kind of got a good thing going for me right now. You know, I can just keep making reflections of this Orcish Bowmaster, get in there for 2, chump block your 3/3. You know, he's kind of decided I want to make Ian apply a little bit more pressure on me before I feel the need to start evoking these Furies. So I think that's a really heads up play from him.
Is that another Murderous Cut? Is that what that is? His hands on it.
Maybe?
I
Quite possibly. So. Whatever it was, it got the job running. It was a kill spell, so.
Yeah, it's a Murderous Cut. Murderous Cut number 2, killing an enchantment creature.
Yeah, I mean, he has 1 Murderous Cut main, 1 Murderous Cut board. Hey, you got to get your stuff done what you can.
I wonder the specific reason why he has 1 in the sideboard. Is it for Scam? Because Scam puts so much stuff in your graveyard, you always have Delve?
You know, that is a really good question. Yeah, 1 Murderous Cut main, 1 Murderous Cut board. It's like seems a little bit unorthodox, I'd say. You know, it seems like the sort of card like, yeah, if it's important in my deck, like maybe I want multiple copies of it. But I think more than anything, he just Ian decided, I want an extra removal spell in general, and it might as well be Murderous Cut. I don't necessarily want it in my main deck. I just want, you know, access to extra removal. And I don't have any Delve cards, as I was talking about before. So I think he just kind of decided, might as well.
Chat pointed out that Murderous Cut is a combo with Murktide Regent when is in play. That's cool.
True. I mean, yeah, if you can afford to build your deck in a way, you know, where you can both cast Murktide Regent, then have extra, you know, stuff in your graveyard to exile, definitely. But yeah, I mean, that is pretty cool.
Here we're seeing what happens to 2 attrition decks when they attrition each other. We're down to top decking. Grief was hard cast, revealed a basic, or sorry, not a basic, but a fetch land from Everett.
I just would be super surprised if Everett ended up, you know, coming out with a win in this game. He still has cards in his deck like, you know, Feign Death, and he's facing down a Leyline of the Void plus some. So there's only so many cards he could draw that could really affect this game.
Indeed. Everett drew a blank, said I've had enough. Gives the 8-0 to Ian Friedman on Mono Black. I'm trying to find.
Wow, I mean, Ian has to be feeling on top of the world. He has this Mono Black deck that he really likes. You know, he's got these 4 Orcish Bowmasters. He's got these 4 of the One Rings. He said, "Hey, I packed the new stuff, guys. Like I got the goods. I know what's good in the format." And taking down an 8-0 with this brew, you know, Night's Whisper. I'm surprised to see Night's Whisper, honestly, in the 8-0 deck, just because of how badly it lines up against opposing Orcish Bowmasters. You know, if you try to go for Night's Whispers and they're like Bowmasters, you just take 1,000,000 damage. But it's worked out so far for Ian, and yeah, he's doing a great job.
Just got to cross your fingers. Well, I think we're going to sign off for the day. It has been a pleasure, Noah. I am going to take off. Thanks for working with me. I'll see you guys tomorrow.